Hey everybody, this is Phil Town.
And this is Danielle Town.
Welcome to the InvestED podcast.
Yay!
This is podcast number 404.
This is your new thing,
Pretty
announcing
exciting.
How many podcasts we've done.
I guess, I don't know, for the time being. And we are talking about resolutions now at the beginning of the year, which has left us behind. We're now in February. What day is today?
You know what? We get around to stuff eventually. We do.
Yeah.
It might take us a while, but you guys, all who are listening, understand that one must meander around some interesting topics in order to enjoy the conversation.
Yeah, especially us. We wander.
Especially us.
So what is it about resolutions?
So I want to hear...
I
want to hear if you made any resolutions or if you can't stand resolutions or whatever.
Well, I'm not a huge fan, so I think we talked about that.
Yeah, we talked about that.
I like to put myself in a position where I'm doing things that are really important to me. Like, I love Steve Jobs' idea that we should try to make a ding in the universe. I think that's what he said. And so, in an attempt to make that little ding as best you can, try to do some things that might have a ding. So those are the things I want to kind of promise that I'm going to do. So it's like, that's what I've done for this year. Like I said last time, I'm promising that I'm going to knock out this amazing phone-based, cell phone-based toolbox.
Sounds awesome.
For doing this kind of investing.
And why do you like to call that a promise and not a resolution?
How you define a resolution would be defined either as a promise or a goal. You resolved to do something. That could be, I'm resolved to have dinner with you, but I didn't make it. All right, then that was a goal. I'm resolved to have dinner with you and I didn't make it, and I'm now going to, feel like I'm totally don't have the character I should have and I need to up my game.
Yeah.
That was a promise.
Okay.
So this to me is a promise. I'm promising that. You guys can hold me to it. It should be done in a year. So this time next year, we should be delivering something pretty amazing that we're committing $2 million to. And hopefully it'll really turn out well. And so that's the difference for me. And I have other things that I haven't sat down and resolved to do because I don't know that I'll really do them. And I don't want to have put myself in that position of, oh man, I didn't
where
do it
you
again.
set yourself up to fail, right? Because that's what it is.
Those things would be working out a certain amount of time and all this. It's just, okay, I'm going to work out as best I can. I'm going to ride my horses as best I can. I'm not going to resolve to, ride 3 days a week and work out 4 days a week. And it's just life just intervenes. And then I feel like, oh man, I can't keep my promises to myself. Yeah. I don't like to do it like that.
Yeah, me either. So, and I think that's the thing is we are in the minority subsection. I'm just going to say it right now. I think you're a rebel also in the Gretchen Rubin paradigm, which doesn't respond well to expectations, neither inner nor outer. And so making any sort of resolution like that, like the typical New Year's resolution type of thing, just feels like, why? I'm just creating something that I'm probably not going to do. So like, why would I do that? But I have learned that other people are different. And the reason New Year's resolutions exist as a concept is that for a lot of people, it feels really good to say to themselves internally, what's a typical New Year's resolution? I want to run 3 times a week. So they say that to themselves and it feels like a new year and a new start, and having that clarity of like, this is something I want to do in this new year gets them out to do it. And
I think that's great.
I do too. It's amazing. Go on. So like, just because you and I are not into it doesn't mean everybody listening should not be like, do it. If it works for you, do it. But that's where I think having the knowledge of yourself And like what you respond well to is super important, because if you set yourself up to fail, like by creating a goal, a promise, etc., that just makes you feel bad, that's not useful. That does not serve you. But setting yourself up in a way
why isn't it useful to feel bad? Now that you've hit on that, what's wrong with that?
Well,
I mean, come on. Think about all the kids right now who are being absolutely mollycoddled, living in a bubble of their parents' creation, so that they never feel bad about anything. They never. What was it? It's like somebody said they went to a little league game and asked one of the moms there, what's the score? And she said, well, the score doesn't matter because all the children are just out here to have fun. This was like T-ball level, like they were like 9 years old. And this guy goes like, oh yeah, well, wait a second. You don't hear the bottom line on this. This other guy goes, yeah, well, our team's having fun 10 times to their team having fun 3 times. So it's like, okay, now you can interrupt.
Okay, I think parenting decisions and the stereotype of everything you're describing is a totally different world than a self-choice of an adult about whether or not they're going to run 3 times a week.
Well, maybe so.
Okay.
I completely lost track of where we were when you
because you got very into how upset you are about sports game keeping score.
What? Oh no! What I'm doing is saying that people are starting to acknowledge.
I know what you're saying. Everybody knows what you're saying. Yeah.
Okay. Well, why is that a good idea to put children in a bubble?
I am not going to comment on parenting choices. When it comes
if
to,
you don't ever fail and you don't feel bad about yourself, how do you go through life?
So when it comes to somebody who's trying to, let's say, for example, learn investing, how can they best set themselves up to do that? Now, maybe for some people, it is like, hey, I need this goal. That's the whole point of resolutions, right? Because when people start to not do them, then they feel bad. And so having that plan, resolution, promise, etc., that you just set for yourself, pushes you to actually do it because you don't want to feel bad, right?
But I guess what I'm driving at is, what's wrong with feeling bad? There's a judgment there that we don't want to feel bad, so let's not do things that'll make us feel bad. Why don't we want to feel bad?
Why do you want to feel bad?
Because you learn. It's like experience is what you got right after you needed it. And you got burned. You got burned badly right there because you didn't know what to do. You feel bad that you screwed up, right? You drove your car off of an embankment. You did something. How do you? Yeah,
but you didn't set yourself up to do that.
What?
It's a mistake, right? It's a problem. It's a mistake. It wasn't supposed to go that way.
Right.
Yeah.
So you learned.
Okay, good. So you learned.
Why would you learn anything? You go like, wow, I don't feel bad about that at all. That was
what
really
is this?
fun.
How does this help? Okay, so tell me how you would design a New Year's resolution then. How does this relate?
Well, I'm now over here trying to understand if the thing that you don't want to do when you're making a resolution is to feel bad about something, and that's why you're not going to be resolved to do it. Then
you literally just said that.
Yourself.
You literally just said I don't make a goal about exercising more because I know I'm probably not going to do it. And I want to just make sure that I like lean in that direction and sort of do more. And I think I can do that. And I want to ride my horse like a good amount. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to do that. But I don't like to set any particular goals.
Because I don't want to feel bad about not doing them. I think I did say that. And I'll tell you what.
This is like literal human nature.
Pull that back.
But you shouldn't pull that back. I think that was enlightened. I think that was enlightened about your own nature. And I liked hearing it because I have heard you make many years these goals that are like not useful. I have not seen them be useful. And exercising, by the way, is usually the topic.
Okay, right. So
So,
you got this idea that you shoot for the stars and maybe all you do is land on the top of the tree, but it's way farther up that mountain than you would have gone. Okay.
yeah,
So,
that's one
okay,
concept. Yes.
I get that. And then there's the concept of don't do that, just set the target on the tree as the tree. You're going to get to the top of the tree so that you achieve things and you feel good about them.
Well, but also
So there's the
because
two.
you know how you're going to get to the top of the tree, you have a plan, you know that it's reasonable and doable in the time frame that you've set, and you're going to go do it, and then you go do it.
Well, I realize I'm terribly conflicted about this all of a sudden. I think there's a definite place for children to fail and feel
But let's
bad.
not talk about children.
I
Let's
think
talk
that's a
about
good idea.
adults who are thinking
But
about
if there's
learning
a place for
investing.
children to do that, then also there's a place for adults to do that.
So
In other
I
words, oh,
have,
and by the way, the whole paradigm that we've got, or a paradigm we've got, don't mean to talk over you, but I just want to get this out,
okay,
is that this is a hero's journey. And we're following this sort of Joseph Campbell hero's journey paradigm that says that heroes go through a process in every culture. At least the hero myth does. And one of the places that you end up is feeling really bad. It's a necessary part in some way. Put it like this, it is a part of the myth of a heroic journey, so much
that's
so that
great.
it has an actual, right? So you've got
Good.
to be in this place where suddenly you doubt, you fear, you know you've made a mistake, you shouldn't be here, you're way over your head. And if you don't know that that's part of the journey and you try to avoid that part of the journey, then maybe Campbell would say you're not going on the journey. You're not
What's the
going to
journey
finish
called
this. You're
again?
not going to be a hero. It's the heroic
The
journey,
hero's journey,
the hero's journey.
which is a singular, extraordinary level of activity, of accomplishment. It's not
Oh,
running three
well,
times a week.
right.
So I guess I don't have a problem with people feeling bad and us reaching for amazing goals and feeling bad when we don't get there and reaching for the stars and landing in the trees. Like, yes, I'm into it. I love it. That's totally me and us and our family and like, yay. And also like, I don't run 3 times a week and neither do you. So like in real life, do you know what I mean?
Second, I'm trying to. So you've got over here, you've got the heroic journey, which
Right.
is seeking. If there's a heroic journey, it's got to be seeking financial independence. It's got to be there somewhere in
Agree.
the number of
Yeah.
heroic journeys you can take, because that's such a it's such a heroic thing to do for your family and for generations to come.
And
All right,
worthy
that's the
and
heroic journey.
good for every part of your life and
But
body,
but
and it's the
running
best.
3 times a week, there's nothing about that thing that's heroic in your view, and therefore you shouldn't arrive at this dark place of doubt and fear that you can't accomplish this goal of running 3 days a week. Shouldn't put
No,
yourself into that scenario,
maybe running 3 days a
right?
week
Have I got you
is
right?
this incredibly important part of your life that you need to develop at all costs. I don't know. If it is, go for it. But for me, it's not. So,
Okay, there's a very good point you're making, I think.
okay, tell me
I
what
think
my.
you're making a great point, and I think that there are heroic journeys, but there's not a lot of them in your life. You're going to do
Yes.
a very few of these, and
Yes.
for those very few heroic journeys, it requires an understanding of the whole process that's you're going to go through, and you got to brace yourself for it because it's going to be a battle
I totally
to
agree
get
with
there.
that. Hmm.
And then there are these other things that are sort of fun to do or good to do, and you should eat right,
And
and you
are
should
important to
exercise.
do, right?
They're important to do,
Yeah.
but you shouldn't be beating yourself up over it. When you go on a heroic journey, you're intentionally going to beat yourself up over it if you don't get through it. You're going to flip and kill yourself if you don't get there,
Yeah. Right.
right?
Right.
Let me give you an example of that. Being married to somebody is
Oh God.
it's a heroic journey.
It is? Are you sure?
Of course it is. You're
Uh,
making a commitment for
that's not my
life.
experience.
And if you don't keep your commitment, you're going to beat yourself up. You're going to wreck somebody else's life in a way. You're going to cause chaos and you're going to have issues and you're going to beat yourself up. You didn't fulfill your promise and you didn't achieve
Yeah.
this heroic, right?
I thought you were
See what I'm
saying that like being married was this like horrific goal setting.
It's
You're
not a
gonna
horrific journey.
like
It's
feel horrible before you feel good.
it's a I think anybody that's been married 60 years would be happy to tell you that there are moments where it's tough
Yes.
and you persevere, right? It's and in that sense is what I'm saying. It's a heroic journey. There will be moments when you doubt and you persevere because you're gonna not fail. You're going all the way through with this.
Actually, I was talking
That's I think
after
what makes it a heroic journey.
after we finished recording the episode where we were talking a lot about Gretchen Rubin. I went and talked to Nuno about it, and I was telling him like what we were talking about, and I said to him
who's Nuno? Who's Nuno?
The husband, the husband.
There you go.
I figured they would figure it out from context eventually.
My beloved son-in-law.
I said to him,
I love this guy.
I struggle so much with expectations. We were talking about like how I respond and how he responds to expectations. And I was telling him how much I struggle with expectations. And then I was like, it's weird that like you're not worried about this because what I'm telling you is that I really struggle with expectations. And yet like we have set up our lives such that you have a pretty strong expectation that I'm going to like stick with you. And
strong.
And
it's
yet
your goal
like
to stick with Nuno.
Right. And yet I said,
you made a promise.
Just let me talk. Right. So I said, it's weird because I struggle with this, but then like my commitment to you and our marriage, like I have no questions about that. I have no concerns, like no worries. Like it's not a struggle. It's not hard at all for me. And I don't understand why that is exactly. Like, I don't know why that's different for me, like internally. And he said, it's because it's just a completely different level of choice. It's like an entire life choice that really doesn't rest on like expectations at all. And I don't know. I've been thinking about it ever since. Because he was like, yeah, like I have no struggles or questions or any like it doesn't even fall into the same category as this whole thing.
That. It's wonderful. All right, so let's categorically say that that's a promise. And that by making the promise,
some might call it a vow.
A vow. It's a vow. I love it. Vow. I like a vow. Okay, it's a
They're vow. Marriage vows. Just so you know, you made marriage vows.
Marriage vows. And so by making this vow, you eliminate doubt, uncertainty, questions. It's, as you say, it's a higher level and it's just done. It's done for life.
Yeah. It's something like that. And I haven't quite sorted it out yet, but it's something like that. It's like, it's done. I'm not trying to reach anything. I think that's what it's like. I'm not trying to reach anything. It's already happened.
Ooh.
It's like it's in the past for me.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Even though it isn't, it's day to day.
Totally. Yes.
Right? You're living life. You're making future plans.
Yeah.
You got all these things going on that are carrying you forward, but it's already in the past. I love that. It's like such a heavy commitment that it's already done. It's already done.
Yeah.
The 30 or 50 years, how many years you're given?
It is.
Done.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wonder if we could make it on the same level. Wow. Can you make a vow about becoming financially independent and have the same experience that it's done. The fact that you made the vow makes it fait accompli.
Well, I mean,
And
I think what
I
you're
don't know
saying
that
is
it
really
would.
interesting
It
because,
couldn't, because you're not wealthy yet, but you are married yet.
yeah, right. You're right. Yeah. But what you're saying is really interesting that even though I have this feeling, I keep like touching my heart, like it's in my heart, right? Like that's done, but it's not done because it's every day. So in a similar way, and maybe this is why I'm so drawn to the concept of a practice for investing, is like the desire is there. The desire is kind of done, I guess. So that can ebb and flow, I suppose. But then what happens is like, okay, what do I do today? Like what do I do tomorrow? How does one actually go and learn about investing? And what do I do? And like what time of day do I do it? And all those kinds of things. And that's why there's about 700 million books about relationships and how to be married. And people go to marriage counselors because it is not clear how you do all those things. And that's why there's 700 books about investing and how you become an investor and what you do and why people are listening to our podcast and why I ask you questions still years later, because it's not clear. So there's it's that same thing of like, how do you live today and now and still like think about the future and prepare for the future and set yourself up for the future, and that balance at all times. How do I know that I've made this really powerful vow to my husband that's done and in the past, but at the same time, like, not annoy the hell out of him every single day and act like a total jerk to him when he comes home and he brought the wrong croissant, which happened today. So I was not a total jerk, by the way. The croissants were
I'm just
excellent.
Thinking of I mean, when people say, that there have been these moments in history where the leader of an expedition, a military expedition, actually burned all the ships.
Oh God, the burn the ship thing again. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I
the
just
only thing that
cannot.
Well, I'm just trying to bring that into tune with what you're saying, because the only thing that could happen once you burn the ships is either you're going to win or you're going to die.
Right.
That's all there is left. So I was thinking in that context about that movie Free Solo, right? Where
Alex Honnold.
What is
Alex Honnold is a free mountain climber, which means that he climbs with no ropes, no safety equipment whatsoever. He's just like a dude who climbs up a mountain alone. And it's exactly as ridiculous and terrifying as it sounds if you haven't seen anybody ever do that.
And the thing that brings it into this context is that you can't climb back down. At some point, you can no longer climb back down. And that point happens really quickly, where
I mean,
you
that's
no longer have a
not
choice.
Literally true in the metaphor, though.
No, it's literally true.
It's
you can't
not.
reverse some of the moves.
He can't reverse some of the moves, but he can climb back down. He does it in the movie.
What?
He there's a part where he is trying to climb up what was it that he was trying to climb? El Capitan or Half Dome? Anyway, one of them. Where he's trying to climb it,
El
and
Capitan.
There's all this pressure from the filmmakers and like when he's going to do it and getting the cameras right and all that, and he starts to climb, and he like fairly quickly after starting says, "I'm not doing this. It doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel good today." And because that mountain has been climbed so many times, it has bolts all over it. So he just clipped in immediately to a bolt and roped up. Right. And then they didn't show how he got down. I don't know. He probably just rappelled down. So
that's right. He did have an out.
Yeah.
Because he's got this film crew with him, and they've got ropes, and they're roped, and he could probably get out of it.
I don't think it
Yeah,
was
you're
because of
right.
the film crew. I think he always climbs with that.
Well, he didn't have any ropes if he's going all by himself, there's no
No,
ropes,
he's not
in which
carrying.
case,
Anyway, the details of how he got out of it are neither here nor
well,
there.
it's close. Maybe it's not perfect, but it's close. And certainly there comes a point in the climb, more than one, but it's certainly one point where he practiced over and over again this really hard move,
Yeah,
and he did it, being roped up from the top where he could
yeah,
fall without risk, and he didn't do it most of the time. He failed,
yeah.
but then he got to where he thought he could probably do it, and that was life or death. You either make it or
Totally.
don't.
It's that leap, right? And it was
Yeah, it was
literally a
insane.
leap across a chasm. That was
God,
completely insane.
breathtaking. If you haven't seen this thing, if you know anything about climbing in the mountains, it's just like breathtaking all the way.
Even
But
if you
it's
don't
like
know
that
anything about
level of
climbing.
commitment. Yeah,
Yeah.
true. But I'm thinking that level of commitment that a free climber makes gets your head in a place. I think, as you said, actually, a really good point you made, where his head wasn't in the right place and he just got out of there because it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
If your head goes into the right place, meaning you are fully committed and there is no turning back and you're solid that you can do this, the doubts go away and you keep them at bay. You don't go through the hero's journey of doubt and fear and all this. You keep that stuff away because the moment you go there, you're going to fall.
That's
I
actually a
think it's
great
the
movie. We should
experience.
watch that again because
Yeah.
most of that movie is about his psychology and the questions that non-free climbers have for people who do that, saying like, why the hell are you doing this completely psychotic suicide mission of a sport? And indeed, most of the guys who do that do not grow old. So
Really? They
yeah,
mostly die?
yeah. Um,
Ooh.
so they talk a lot about that. He talks a lot about that in the movie, and much like us, he doesn't really know the answer. He is trying to figure it out along with everybody else. They do MRIs on his head in the movie, like they filmed it, where they the doctors try to stimulate the fear part of your brain, and his fear part of his brain does not light up. So the way they do that is they show pictures in the MRI of like things that most people think are scary, and they have a baseline of what a typical or average response would be. And his response is, if let's say typical is 100, his response is like 1. And so he just literally doesn't respond to fear in the same way that most other people do. So that's number one. And then number two is that I think is what makes him the world's greatest free climber, free solo, I should say, is that on top of that lack of fear, which surely most of the people doing that sport also have, or also don't have, is that he is so prepared. He's so aware of his process, of his practice. He goes through every single climb over and over and over in his head, on paper, in reality. He does it over and over, roped up, safe, until he can do that climb so reliably that it creates the confidence. So the confidence is not false. It's not like I psyched myself up and I'm going to go do it. It's real because he knows he can do it because he's done it 100 times.
So I watched a YouTube video of Alex taking another climber who has a lot of YouTube videos named Magnus Midbow, who's I think a Finn, and has fun videos. If you've never watched them, they're really fun to watch.
I've never watched them.
But Alex took him up on a wall, cliff, someplace, some mountain cliff, and they free climbed it. And this is something that I'm sure Magnus asked him to do for him because Alex is famous and Magnus is a good promoter of his own, YouTube channels. But they got to a spot on this wall where Magnus was locked in and couldn't move.
Yeah. So
And
bad.
Alex was right above him, just talking him through it, just, hey, man, you got this. This is easy. You can do this standing on your head. So Magnus had never had the advantage of free climbing this thing, or actually top roping this and knowing all the moves and all of that confidence. He just was trusting Alex that Alex wouldn't take him over his head. And he got to a place where, he talked about it after he climbed it, because he had to climb it. Couldn't climb back down. They didn't have ropes. I mean, he had to make the move. And it was scary. He was scared. He had doubt. And that doubt was starting to really cause him some problems on that mountain. I love this because it's a metaphor for going through the investing journey. I mean, it really is. You're out there without a rope, and you're using real money, and it can be very scary for you.
And I'm so glad you brought that movie up, because I learned a lot from his process that is applicable to my process with investing practice. And the main takeaway that I had just from watching it, and now I want to go watch it again, is how much he repeated the process. He did it in his head. He wrote every move down in his notebook. And then he did it in real life. And well,
I've told you so many times, like, my favorite thought about all this is how much emphasis Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger put on being right, and not being in a zone where you even could be wrong, because it's just like, okay, look, just know you're right. So I just keep remembering that Davy Crockett, at least in the television show in the 1950s, when Fess Parker was Davy Crockett, used to say every show, first be sure you're right, and then go ahead. And I thought that was life wisdom when I was 9 years old. And I still think so today. I think it was a really wise thing. First be sure you're right, and then go ahead. With investing, being sure you're right means to really be an expert in that business. You really have to know that you know. And anything you think you might not know, you don't know. And stay away from that. And so it's like, man, so important that you have a business that's wonderful. In fact, to the point that if you had to choose between a business that's wonderful run by a con artist versus a fair business run by a wonderful person with integrity and talent, Munger said you choose the business that's wonderful.
I would choose the business that's fair. So I hate to disagree with Charlie, but on that one I would. With
Charlie,
because I think a con artist can really mess up a wonderful business.
Take a deep breath and don't immediately disagree with Charlie, because
I don't want to. It
very
feels wrong.
Rarely wrong.
Yes.
Very rarely wrong.
Agree.
And the problem is, the thing is, what we define a wonderful business as, not to get all into a whole nother subject here, but what we define a wonderful business as is a business that's so simple that an idiot can run it. And Charlie's view is that if you've got a business like that, he didn't say con artist, so maybe I've gone over the line.
Oh, because somebody who's dumb but well-meaning is a completely different story than somebody who's actively embezzler, fraud.
We get a lot of letters on that one. Fair enough, you're right. So let's just say an idiot is you chose between a great business run by an idiot or a fair business run by somebody fabulous.
Oh my gosh. I'm so glad you clarified.
Venture capitalists would all go run over. Tell me I'm right about this. Venture capitalists would run over and get on the boat with the person who's wonderful.
There's no such thing as a wonderful early stage business that venture capital invests in. So it's
okay. Well, there you go.
I'm sorry. I have to be accurate. Anyway. I'm sorry.
True. Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's not even a question.
No.
They got to go with the people.
But that's why they go with the people, because the people have so much influence on the direction.
But there it is. I mean, that choice of wonderfulness and how important the business quality is gigantic. And you can't know that for sure unless you really understand the business well.
Yeah. All right, we better stop today, but this has been very thought-provoking. and
very good.
enjoyable.
A lot more to cover here. I love this.
This is why investing is life.
Promise,
like
vow.
I watch this stuff
thing, that was awesome.
And I think to myself, investing is life. And then I think, I can't say that to people because it sounds so stupid. But that is literally how I think about it. So, Dad, we need to come up with like a better slogan because investing is life sounds like I'm trying to recruit people into a lame cult.
I didn't know we had that slogan.
We don't. It's just inside my head. No, it's just something that comes into my head because I'm corny.
You're right. Investing is life. That's not good. It sounds greedy.
It sounds like a really boring cult.
It does. You're right. Okay, we'll figure that one out next time. No problem.
Thanks, everybody.
Time to go play. See you guys.
Bye.
Hi guys, thanks for listening to InvestED. If you enjoyed this episode and you want more information or to listen to additional episodes, visit our website at investedpodcast.com and sign up for my virtual workshop right there. Spots are definitely limited for this event. I'm not kidding, they really are. They sell out very quickly. So everything discussed on this podcast, by the way, is either my opinion or it's Danielle's opinion. And really important, it's not to be taken as investing advice because I am not your financial advisor, nor have I considered your personal situation as your fiduciary. So remember that. You're on your own here. This podcast is for your entertainment and education only, and I really hope you enjoyed it.